All right, so completing the square, second day. I want to show you today a couple more efficient ways to complete the square. Now remember, on these, 90% of our problems are going to be decimal answers. And the overall goal is to say, where does the parabola cross the x-axis? That is what our answers are. So remember the overall big picture as we're getting our answers. And the chance that one of those two dots is a decimal is high. That's a very high probability. And that's the premise. That's the big picture in what we're getting. So, first step, we get rid of the 3, which will give us x squared minus 20x. Leave a big blank, equals negative 3. I want to be more efficient today as we do our problems to save steps. You have to leave that big blank because what am I going to stick in that big blank? A blank, right? And so in that big blank, put plus blank, plus blank. Now, remember, this box, yes sir, you sure can, here you go. That box needs to be what we call a perfect square, what was the third word? Trinomial. That means it has 3 terms and they make a perfect square trinomial. Who remembers how to make that blank? We need to teach Elizabeth and Gabe. Sophia.
You would divide 20.
Right, divide 20 by 2, and that gives me negative 10.
And then you square it.
Good. Negative 10 squared is 100. So I put 100 in there. Is it enough just to put the 100 in there? Because I have to do what to my equation? Balance it. So put a plus 100 on the other side. Sophia, can you say again how we got the 100?
You divide 20 by 2.
We divide 20 by 2.
And then you get negative 10, and then you square it.
Does that make sense? So we divide negative 20 by 2, square it. And whenever you square anything, you're always going to get a positive.
But I thought you couldn't square negative.
You can square anything. You can't take the square root of a negative. Good point. We're going to see that later. All right, now, my parentheses. I want to write it as a binomial squared. Remind me how to know what goes in that parentheses. Someone else from yesterday. Jake.
It would be x.
X.
10.
And 10. And how do I know if it's a plus 10 or a minus 10?
What's in front of the second number?
Okay, what's in front of this number right here is a minus 20. So Gabe, what goes in front of this number here is a minus 10. And Elizabeth, once again, this 10 comes from half of that 20. All right? Someone help me, what's negative 3 plus 100? 97. Be a cool math student. Cross your sevens. All right, let's take the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 10 squared. The square root of 97. And now I need to make a big note over here. Remember, I can't spell today. Remember the plus or minus. When you take the square root of both sides, you've got to remember plus or minus. All right, I need some help here. What is the square root of 97?
9.85.
Plus or minus 9.85. And the square root of something squared is what's inside. In this case, what's inside? X minus 10. End of step 2. How many answers do we have? 2 answers. Now I need to break my equation up into 2 parts. And this is where some people last hour lost me. I want to make sure we're very clear on this. The first part says x minus 10 equals 9.85. Or the second part says x minus 10 equals negative 9.85. The only thing that's different in the second half is this minus right here. Notice Gabe and Elizabeth, the x minus 10 didn't change. It's still x minus 10 on both. All right, how do we solve an x minus 10? We plus 10s. My first answer, 19.85. That's the easy one. What's the second answer? Jake? 0.15. Is everyone okay and comfortable getting that? Crunch that on your calculator right now to make sure you get the correct thing. Everyone crunch that out. I just want to make sure that we're working it out correctly. So let's write our answer. 0.15, comma 19.85. Does this parabola cross the x-axis? Yes. Where? Really close to 0, and then way up at 20. Think about it. Have we ever had a parabola cross way over at 20? No, they've always been nice and neat between 8 and negative 8, you know? This one isn't nice and neat. But is it still cross? Yeah. It's just really, really deep, so to speak. The bottom of this parabola is way down there. To be that far apart, this parabola is really deep. Okay. Flip the page. Elizabeth and Gabe, all the steps that we're doing are right here. Kind of step by step by step. So you can kind of look back at those to walk through. All right. First step. Third row. Tiffany, Brittany, Caroline, Barbara, Jonathan, and Nate. What's my first step? Tiffany? Minus the 10. Okay. So I run minus the 10. Someone else in that row. What's my next step? Nate?
Let's put the plus blank.
Excellent. Put the plus blank. Someone else in that row. What goes in the blanks?
29.
Why?
14 divided by 2 is negative 7.
14 divided by 2 is negative 7.
Squared is 49.
Squared is 49. Good. All right, let's move up a row. Max, Josh, Elizabeth, Melissa, Annalise, and Brittany. Can any of you tell me what goes in the parentheses on the left?
X squared minus 14.
Not quite. Close. Josh?
X minus 7.
X minus 7. So instead of the 14, Max, we take the 14 and divide it by 2.
Yeah.
All right, and what's negative 10 plus 49? Is that a perfect square? No. Is that okay? Yeah. All that means is our answers are going to be decimals. All right, front row. Nate down to Vicky. What do I do? What's my next step? Don't say square. Take the square root of x minus 7 squared. Do I also take the square root of here? Would you give me full credit for that? What I wrote? What am I missing? Missing that plus or minus. All right, when we take the square root of something squared, Felipe, remember we get what's inside. So x minus 7. Back row, what's my decimal? A little louder, Sophia. 6.24. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Once again, my last hour class had a little challenge on this. How do I break these up? What's the first break?
X minus 7 equals positive 6.24.
Okay. X minus 7 equals positive 6.24. Or
X minus 7 equals negative.
x minus 7 equals negative 6.24. Nice pickup, Matt. All right, let's add 7s. Ladies, give me the left. Gentlemen, give me the right. Ladies, Jess? I like that. Gentlemen? 0.76. All right, so let's write our answers. 0.76, comma, 13.24. Let's pause for a second. Questions? Any questions? This making sense, Elliot? Step by step? What is the hardest step for you in these problems? Is there any part that's more difficult than others to remember? How many times does this thing cross? Twice. That's 0.76 and 13.24. Not nice, neat answers. Most of your answers, I'm looking down the answer sheet here. 1, 2, only 2 of them are decimals tonight. So even so, it's a rarity tonight. It's not even realistic tonight. All right, slide down to the bottom. All right, here we go. Ladies, start me off. First step. Caroline.
Subtract 4.
Good. Gentlemen, your turn. Jake?
It's going to be x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals negative 40 plus 16.
Can you explain how you got the 16s? I like your 16s.
I divided negative 8 by 2, and that got me negative 4.
Okay.
Negative 4 squared is 16.
All right. Very good. All right, ladies, back to you. Next step. What's my next step? Sophia?
Do x minus 4. And then you do plus or minus,
Not yet.
squared.
Squared.
And then you do plus or minus,
Not yet. What's negative 40 plus 16?
negative 4.
Okay. Negative 24. How do I get rid of a square, gentlemen? Take the square root. So let's take the square root of both sides. Square root of x minus 4 squared. Square root of negative 24. All right. Punch it out. Luis, talk to me. Why? Okay, because it's a negative 24, just a little louder, you can't take the square root of a negative. So, you said it's no real solution. So, what does that mean about this parabola? Is it still a parabola?
Yes.
I agree with you, it is no real solution. Is this still a parabola? Let me show you a little bit about. See this plus 40? What do we know about the last number in the equation? What does that represent in our graph? The y-intercept. Where is the y-intercept? At 40. This parabola looks like this. And that spot right there is where? 40. So what does it mean about the parabola? It just doesn't get down low enough to do what? Cross the x-axis. Is it still a parabola? Yeah. All this means is there's no points that cross the x-axis. Is no real solution a viable answer? Sure. It would be like my saying, Brittany, how many monkeys do you have at your house? Or in general, maybe we would say none. But it's okay to have no monkeys. Okay, most of us don't have any in our house. So here's a case where you just don't have any answers, and it's good not to have answers. That's a viable solution. So don't get thrown by no real solution. And as Louis said, the indicator of that will be the square root of a negative. Be aware, though, it's not going to happen often. Okay? This is a rare answer. It will happen sometimes, but not predominantly a lot of the time. Okay?